Friends, family, YouTubers, viewers, watchers, and everybody that's tuning into my little, as you can see, my little cozy corner of the world. Welcome, and welcome. Today is going to be a bit different. There is no reviews today. This is a little bonus. I have gotten some questions. I've gotten some comments on my Facebook page, which is down below somewhere. If you have any questions, any comments, and if you don't feel like calling it out on the comments below on the video, you can drop me a message, and either objectively say what would you like to see, or comments, questions, or what have you there. And to that point, I got a couple of very similar requests, which is really cool, and I really appreciate that. So this time around, we're gonna do it slightly different, and also I'm sure that you can see that already in the title of the video and in the thumbnail of the video, that we're not gonna review anything this time around. So let me just refuel, and forget to mention as well, if you like what you see, don't forget to show a bit of love with the like button, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Appreciate that as we continue to build out our small little channel here, and take you on a journey that God only knows where it will lead us in the future. Anyways, I'm excited because this is kind of like my own take on things. And what we're going to look at this time around is, I've got it here, I've got my notes prepared. It's my top 10 list of things really to, not mistakes per se, but things to be careful with, things to really take a deep, hard look at, and make sure that or at least try to see if you can limit it, or if you can completely avoid it. Because some of the things on this list can actually end up being, I would say, slightly counterproductive, and could potentially cost you quite a set of money if you're not careful with it. So what I'm going to review is my list of top 10 things to be careful with, or mistakes slash points to be avoided, if you will. They are in no specific order, not in terms of like, this is the most important, this is less important, they're all important. And the reason why I'm pointing that out right from the beginning is, have a look at it, listen to what I'm talking about, and of course see which one you know, which one you're aware of, and which one you're not aware of, and which one you feel you need to take a note of and say, aha, okay, this is what Martin meant. Small little note: I am not rocking my my Meter Ocean Star this time around. It's Friday, so I decided to switch it up a gear. I will just flash it a bit here. If you do know which one I'm watching, which one I'm actually wearing this time, what watch it is that I'm wearing, which timepiece it is, drop it in the comment, and let's see if you can get it right just from the view of it, okay? So having said that, let's get into the business, okay? So you have decided, because of your passion, because of your love towards watches, timepieces, horology in general, right? The study of time. You've decided that, you know what, I want to start my watch collection, and I'm gonna do it because of X amount of different things, right? My reasoning is whatever you want to have as reasoning. My own is, first of all, I get a lot of joy out of learning, studying, and of course also buying and wearing and all of these things. And then of course there's the investment aspect of it, and then there's the aspect of passing it along to my son when he gets old enough. Having said that, everybody's going to choose to build a watch collection for their own personal reasons, and it makes sense if you kind of make that upfront, right? To kind of think about, why is it actually you want to build a watch collection. And there we start with point number one. Point number one, and I'm going to take my pen so I can tick it off when I go through. Point number one is looking at the instant gratification of buying a watch, okay? What I mean with that is, you buy a watch because you are searching for the thrill, the excitement of buying. You don't really care about the watch, and you're not really going to wear the watch. You just like the hunt for the watch. That can be very, very dangerous, because instant gratification means you want it here and now. And you're not really willing to actually put in the time to research. You're not, which is another point we'll get to. You're not really willing to wait and save, which is another point we'll get to as well. But you need everything here and now, okay? And with that, it becomes very, very dangerous, because what you are buying is not what you necessarily want to have in the long run. You just buy to satisfy the urge of actually adding something to your collection. Now, I will admit I have done this a couple of times with something, and it's not that I regret having done it, because frankly speaking, the prices of the pieces that I picked up were not that high and didn't impact my overall budget that I have for my collection monthly or annually. But I bought something because it was the thrill of buying it. I've been looking at it for some time. I haven't really, I really didn't spend too much on it. I was excited about, pulling the trigger on it and waiting for it to come. When I got it, I looked at it and like, okay, I can archive that. I'm never gonna wear it, right? And that's just silly to do that. So instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Delayed gratification, when you are building something for the long run, much more important, right? That one is very, very important to take into consideration. Point one, absolutely forget about instant gratification. Look at the delayed gratification. Do your homework on that one. Next one, boop. Point two, buying without box and paper. So it's not, I don't refer to it as the black market. That's not what I mean, that you're buying something potentially illegal. I'm referring to it as the gray market. And I would not buy anything without box and paper. I wouldn't. Now, I'm waiting actually today, hopefully still in the next hour or so, that one new piece is gonna arrive. Now, I've been looking for this piece for quite some time now. Finally found it. Original box, original paper, original certificates, everything there, right? I end up paying more. I end up paying how much more? Maybe on this specific piece, somewhere between 200 to 300 euros more. So it's a fairly pricey piece, but it is, and I'll review it of course later, it is really, really important for me to know that it comes with box and it comes with papers, it comes with the official certification, all of these things. I have a friend that had a situation once where it doesn't matter what brand it is, but they simply refused to do any servicing on the watch simply because there was no paper on it, because they couldn't guarantee that the watch wasn't stolen or it was whatever. Now, of course, you can be in the situation where with box and paper it was stolen still, but there's a limited amount of probability for that. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you're going to buy a stolen piece. However, there will be certain brands that simply will not service your piece because there is no license, certifications, there is no paper, there is no tracking of where it comes from. Now, of course, if it's 60, 80, or 100-year-old timepiece, that becomes close to impossible. Now, I will say another thing as well about getting box and paper. When you're buying something, in the end, if it's worth, if it's a piece that you expect to go up in price, having the original box and having the original paper will make the price go up even further. So box, paper, always remember that as well. That one goes off the line. And moving into basically taking a bit on that one, okay? So service and service cost. When you buy a great piece, okay? When you buy a great piece, it's needless to say that you need to take care of it. You do need to take care of things. Of course, you need to take care of things. Now, that also means that once in a while, you do need to send your piece for service. Now, depending on what piece it is, you need to send it to original services. That means if you have a Rolex, you need to send it to the factory, right? Or not the factory, to the company. They will do the service. They know how to do it. And that there is not free of charge, my friend. The more complex, the more expensive the piece is, the higher the service cost will become, because it's not everybody that can do service cost on it. Let me give you an example, okay? Imagine you have a timepiece and you are running out of, you're running out of battery. You go to your local watchmaker and you give it to him, he unplugs it, unscrews it, change a couple of batteries, back, you get your watch, you're good to go, and that's it. Now, if you have a diver's watch, for example, and you are using it actively, of course, one of the things that you have to make sure that is sitting well is that the pressure, is the pressure really going to maintain when you go diving and all of these different things. That means he would need to have equipment to actually test, measure, and monitor all of these different things. Now, one of the things that then becomes expensive is the more complex this whole process becomes, the more expensive the servicing become, okay? So you have to take into consideration that at one moment, your timepiece has to be serviced. It's like a car, has to change oil. You have to change the brakes. Once in a while, you have to change summer tires to winter tires and what have you. There is service cost there as well. People tend to underestimate service cost. Be careful with that because it can cost you an arm and a leg if you're not ready for it, okay? And we're not talking about $50. We're talking about $200, $300, $400. I have a friend of mine that had to get his Autome sent to serviced, okay? He ended up paying around 500 euros because they found that there was something wrong with one of the wheels. And so not only did they find it, they also fixed it, and all of a sudden, bam, $500 right off the bat, right? Now, if you have a watch that is 15,000 and then you're paying 500 euros to get it fixed, obviously that's not a problem. But if you have a watch for around a couple of thousand, it's an outdated model or it's a discontinued model, then all of a sudden service costs can go up because there's very few people that can actually do that with your piece. So service costs, be careful with that because it can run very, very high. Now I'm gonna really upset some people, and I will be careful because I want to do it in the way of I want to try and be as objective as possible. Okay, so for those of you that are starting to build a watch collection, let me just make one thing absolutely clear in my own opinion. Okay, if you are buying a fashion watch, okay, a fashion watch, and I mean no disrespect to people that are buying fashion watches at all. Fashion watches has no room in my collection. Absolute no room whatsoever. And I'll tell you why. Fashion watches is mechanics bought off a factory. And it can be great mechanics, it can be quartz, it can be whatever. You might even see that, hey, this mechanics is used in Citizen Seiko or whatever have you. It could be that. But the minute somebody sticks their name on it, their initials on it, price of that watch goes through the roof for no apparent reason besides the fact that it's got a name. Okay, so let me give you an example. Daniel Wellington, not a bad watch, but for the price of Daniel Wellington, which is not a brand that is known for historically or hysterically great quality of watches, right? That's not what they do per se. The minute they brand it Daniel Wellington and it becomes a fashion piece, it becomes much more expensive. Now, alternatively, think of it like this. Why would you not go and get a Tissot, for example, for almost the same amount of money, but here you're buying Swiss made, and here you're buying history, you're buying legacy, and you're buying all of these different things. I simply will not look at fashion watches as something that belongs in my collection. There is another thing as well with fashion. Not that as you can see, I'm not a fashion icon at all. My style is very laid back. I wear a jean t-shirt and a cap, right? Fashion goes in style, and it goes out. Remember the big gold watches that women were wearing some time ago that everybody was like running around, and Michael Kors and what have you? Where are they now? They're nowhere to be found. I can almost guarantee you that if you buy a fashion watch, a couple of years from now, they will not be worth the money you pay for them because you pay for a brand, and the brand is not associated with something watch collector, serious watch collector would pay for, right? So while we look at Swiss made, we look at history, we look at legacy, we look at mechanics, we look at design and functionalities and what have you, fashion looks nice, it looks great, okay? Now with fashion watches, one of the things that I don't like as well is that the flavor of the day changes according to the weather. So big, bulky watch, like massive, colossal watches on the wrist was really fashionable some time back. and they're not, like, it just looks ridiculous in my eyes, right? That's not a timepiece that you're wearing. It just like blows my mind that people would actually invest in something for like 3, 4, 500 euros or dollars, while you could actually get a really, really great working Hamilton, or you could actually look at, as I said, picking up Tissot, or you could even look at getting something in the level of Longy or what have you. Fashion watches, absolutely for me, a no-no. Now, there's another no-no as well, which is really, really like, I cannot, okay? Smartwatches and Apple watches in gold, right? Or a precious metal, right? Like where the frame is made in gold or rose gold or what have you, plated and all of that delicious mumbo jumbo. Now, I don't do smartwatches at all. I respect if you want a smartwatch. I respect the fact that you are such an important person that you need to be able to do all of these different things that you can't do on a mobile phone or a MacBook. I'm perfectly okay with that, or a tablet. Cool, that's up to you, buddy. But smartwatches is basically a computer on steroids, right? I mean, like the size of it is like the CPU processing power and what have you on a smartwatch is incredible, no doubt about that. However, if you are looking at technology in general, the first smartwatch that came out years ago versus the one now basically means the first one coming out is obsolete. There's nothing you can do with it. You can throw it out and it's not worth the box it got sent in. Now, having said that, imagine you're buying something that is gold or gold plated and all of these things, and then the technology inside it moves forward again and again and again. 5 years from now, that piece, the only value it has is if you take out all of the plastic, all of the components, and really boil the gold or the rose gold down to a mini bar, right? That's the only value it has, simply because the technology then becomes obsolete, it becomes outdated, and what have you. So smartwatches for me, it's a big no-no, and especially when you're paying, well, I don't know, $1,000 for a watch because it comes with gold, rose gold, and what have you. Smartwatch is not something that belongs in my collection as well. Let's get that off the list. Quality versus quantity. Oh my God, for €1,000 or for $1,000, I can buy 10 watches. They are all dirt cheap. Or I could buy 2 watches that are incredible. Which one do I go for? It's kind of like when you show a child a banknote or a handful of coins. Okay, which one are they choosing? Well, they're choosing the coins because there's more of them, while the banknote and the coins actually have more or less the same value, right? Like monetary value. Now, the problem I have with quality versus quantity question is people look at, oh my God, I have so many more watches in my collection. Yeah, but if they're all worthless, you end up actually spending $1,000 on something that will not give you much joy, not give you much pleasure, and by the end of the day, there's a higher probability a watch that is higher cost and higher price will actually remain its value or potentially go up in value, right? So I absolutely urge you to look at quality and not quantity. It is not a race to how many watches you can have in your collection, but it is a race to what you have. So it is the quality in your collection that matters. It is not the quantity. Nobody's gonna look, again, if you are a serious collector, nobody's gonna look in your collection and say, wow, you've got 500 watches in your collection, but they all cost on average $50. Like, pointless. What you're looking for is to build a collection over time that really, really is a reflection of what you are and who you are and what you're becoming. So quality, my friend, over quantity every single day, right? And it goes back to this, maybe a bit about this instant gratification, that I cannot afford that, so I buy that one. I compromise with what I wanted to buy just so I can add stuff to my collection. I have done it myself where I have bought absolute rubbish, and I will make a video on that because actually I got a question on, do you have anything in your collection that you would wish that you could either turn back time or get rid of? I don't do regrets. I bought it. I live with the shame that I bought it. It's a reminder. I learned my lesson, and that's what I'm trying to get you to do as well. Quality every time over quantity. Next one is interesting. So, and now we are actually at already 0.7. I had a conversation with a friend a long time ago. I love Breitling. Breitling is one of my favorite brands in the entire world. I love Breitling because I like the robustness of it and I love the design of it. And there's one specific type of Breitling or one of the models that they have that I absolutely adore, and that's the Bentley, right? So the Bentley is one that I absolutely love. Now, Breitling for Bentley is a collaboration model, and it's a model that Breitling did for the Bentley car per se. Now, or working with them on it. Now, I had this conversation with a friend of mine that at that moment I really thought, or at that time and moment, I really thought he's an expert on watches. Wearing expensive watches, can talk like day in, day out about like it's all in-house, it should be all in-house and all of these things. And he absolutely he really think that Breitling is the worst. He really hates it. Now, and he talked me out of getting that Breitling, and I really regretted that for a long time. I actually was looking at one that I just recently looked at, same model, and if I would have bought it, I would have been up, I don't know, with that one, specific one, that age, that time, I would have been up around $1,000 on that watch. Is it, the end of the world? It's not. But what is the end of the world is that everybody is an expert. Now, I'll be the first one to say, I am absolutely not an expert. I just talk to what I learn, what I understand, what I study, and what I myself have gone through, what I'm going through, and what I think, believe, and feel. Now, I'm not an expert. I haven't studied this theme. I don't have extensive degrees, PhDs in horology, time making, like watchmaking, and all of these things at all. I am not an expert. I don't consider myself an expert. I'm not interested in considering an expert, because what really is my goal is to talk about authenticity, right? My own originality, and that's my point of view. You might agree, you might disagree, but it's all my story. And so, you make up your own mind on that. And the problem is listening too much to experts will make you doubt that this is the right one for you. Now, you should, if they are true experts, meaning that they have actually studied the trade and they can actually tell their head from their butt when it comes to timepieces, and they have some fair points to be made, some objective points to be made on the piece that you're looking at, you should listen to them. Of course you should listen to them, but listening too much to them and make them actually discourage you for buying something that you absolutely love, that is quality, that is, for example, Swiss made, that is a brand that we are reviewing, or we reviewed, or we're going to review, right? You're buying something that you really truly love, and it follows all of the criteria and it fits into your collection. Then you have an expert telling you you shouldn't do that. Like that, I can't, like that really upset me. And then you know what happened? The worst thing was this so-called expert ended up basically selling his whole collection and then started wearing a smartwatch. How much of an expert is that, right? So I was the dumb one. I was the stupid one. I fell for the fact that his opinion wasn't an expert opinion. It was a loud opinion. It was a critical opinion, and it was a very subjectively based opinion. In-house versus outsourced, right? In-house mechanics is the only way to go. This one, they have outsourced it, and this is a collaborate model. Don't do that, right? What a load of nonsense. Let me just ask one simple question. Why would that make sense? Why is the choosing criteria for a watch, if it's in-house or if it's a collaborate model? It makes no sense. It's a point of view, and you just in one ear, out the other ear. And it infuriates me when people, they say, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, well, apparently neither do you, right? So pay attention to the ones that have an objective point of view, that are able to explain to you in a normal tone without being judgmental, saying, listen, this is what I think. This is the reason why I wouldn't do it. Not the ones that are saying you shouldn't do it, because you should do what you want to do. It's your goddamn collection, right? So, and this is the one that you have to be very careful with, because there's a lot of shaming and a lot of name calling if you don't follow people's opinions. But it's your opinion. And fine, you have your opinion. You have your rights to your opinion. I also have my rights to ignore your opinion. So pay attention to experts, but don't give them too much credit, because there is a lot of self-proclaimed experts and gurus everywhere, right? Again, having said that, I do not consider myself an expert at all, right? So again, I look at what I think, what I know, what I've learned, what I've studied, and I put that together in an original, authentic Martin style and format. So whether you agree or not, that's fine. That is fine. But I won't tell you if you should or should not buy it. I'm telling you, and I'm going to explain to you if I would buy it or not. That's the difference. You can make up your own mind. Fine, but here's why I wouldn't buy it, or here's why I would buy it, right? So that was point 7. Point 8. This is an interesting one. Chasing price. Oh my God, chasing price. So chasing price, what I mean with that is always trying to overly negotiate something. Now, of course, you should try and get it to the best price ever when you're buying with box and paper. And if you have a motivated seller, there's room for improvement on the price. Of course, there is negotiation room and all of these different things. But pushing it too far will potentially backfire, and you're going to lose the opportunity to pick up a great piece at an already discounted price. So chasing price has the hidden aspect that if you're not careful, the buyer is going to say, well, then I'm not selling it to you. End of story. And then you have to backtrack on your negotiation and say, so, but what if I pay this? And if they're really, really not liking you and your approach, they will say, I'm not interested in selling it to you at all. You can offer me $50,000 on a watch that costs $5,000, still not gonna sell it because now I just don't like you. You are a rude and you are a not well-behaved person. Chasing price, you have to be very sensitive when you're negotiating, right? You have to be very, you have to apply a lot of sympathy and empathy for the person selling, right? They are selling something they were holding, and now they're departing with it, right? So I loved it. I, for whatever reason, need the money. Or I just don't have room in my collection anymore, and I'm offering it for set price. Now, with that, of course, chasing prices can backfire, and you can lose the opportunity to buy an absolutely wonderful piece. I've done that. I've experienced where if I push it much further, yeah, I might be lucky and get 5% discount further. But I might also have a seller that's going to say, well, I'm not going to send it to you, right? I'm not going to sell it. Now, what I typically do is I always go in with a question, which is very open, is, listen, I'm a motivated buyer. I have the funds. I can transfer the funds. There is no delay from my side. Is there room for improvement? And some once in a while, they will say, yeah, I can chop off like $100. Or they will be, well, listen, I can send it express to you with full insurance and what have you, which, by the way, is another $150 that they would have to pay out of their own pocket, which is not really a bad thing as well to get that. So chasing prices, be careful with that. Now, one of the things that I absolutely love is when I find something that I am interested in, something that piques my interest, that stimulates my senses. What I then do is I start to research. I look at the brand, I look at the history, I look at the legacy, and potentially I post a video like I've done already, right? So if you haven't seen my other videos, have a look at that, and then you can see for yourself. Mido for me was a great example of that. Mido was a great example of that. Eterna was a good example. Hamilton was a good example of that, where they are brands that I've known of. I have never owned anything from them. So when I started being in the situation of like, really, I'm now considering Mido, let me take that example. I'm really considering seriously to buy the Ocean Star. I went in and I studied the company. I started looking at what is the legacy, what is the history, what have they done, what are they known for? And then I started looking at some reviews. Now, I looked at reviews. I didn't look at people saying, you know, for that price, you can get something that's much better. Didn't look at that. I looked at people that objectively wrote reviews of the Ocean Star, what they thought, what they loved, and what they thought could be improved. And after that, I had enough information to sit down and then say, okay, pros and cons for me buying this versus something else is. And then I'm able to list it on one and the other side. And with that, come to the conclusion that yes, indeed, Mido is something that should be in my collection. And I am happy that it is in my collection. But doing research is something that I think fundamentally a lot of people, they miss. They see somebody wearing a piece and then they go, I want to have that. Then they buy it, they stick it on their hand or their arm, and they all of a sudden they realize that it doesn't fit me. It's not my style. that there is about doing your own research. That there is about figuring out what is it that talks to me, what is it that doesn't talk to me about this, and what would my concerns be, and what are the things that absolutely resonates with me, and that's the reason why I'm picking it up. Do your own research. Don't read other people's research as your number one input and source, but look at other people's research and documentation as an opportunity to add to your own research. The final one, buy above your means. This is a huge problem, huge problem. The problem with that is you buy something you cannot afford. You buy something that potentially you have to put in the pawn shop in the future, or that you have to sell because you cannot afford it. And that goes back to point number one, instant gratification. I have heard people that takes out bank loans to buy a timepiece. Why would you do that? You cannot afford it. Don't buy it. Wait until you can afford it. Simply buying something because you must have it, there is a word for that. It's called addiction. It's addiction. Don't do that. Don't fall for that trap. Buy above your means is not healthy. If you cannot afford it, wait until you can. If you have to live off bread and water, or you can't even afford that because you are walking around flashing an expensive watch, you're making a mistake. It's like buying an incredibly expensive car. You have it in the garage because you can't afford the petrol for the car. Why would you do that? Don't do that. Simply wait until you can afford it. Buying above your means is it's morally, stressfully, it's just like devastating for your mind if you end up in a situation where you have to give it back. It can be so patronizing, and it can be so humiliating if you have to go through that process of having to return something or sell it below market price, what have you, because you bought a watch that you cannot afford. Absolutely don't do that. Now, having said that, let's just recap really, really fast. Instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Wait until you're ready. Buying without box and paper. Always make sure you can track it back to the original owner, and the original owner is the company that made it. Not understanding service cost. Service cost can go out of their mind. They can go bananas the more complicated and the more special your piece is. So be careful with that. Fashion watches versus Swiss-made watches. Fashion watches, not in the collection. Smart watches in gold. Don't do that, because by the end of the day, the gold is the only thing that has value. Everything else will improve and increase and become better and faster and what have you, because that is the way of technology. Quality over quantity. When in doubt, buy quality. Listening too much to experts. Listen objectively to what people they say, but make the decision yourself on your own research. And chasing price. When the deal is good, accept it. Don't push for absolute great every time. Good is okay. Do your research, look up the brand, look up the company, look up the model, find some objectively made reviews, potentially look at some of the videos that I'm doing as well to get a point of view on that. And then finally, don't ever buy anything that's more expensive than you can actually afford. Having said that, that would be my top 10 list of things to avoid, mistakes people are making when they're setting out to start to build their own watch collection. Now, I hope that it helps. I hope that it gives you a bit of things that you have to be careful with, things that you might have known about or have not known about. And I hope that it gives you a bit of insight into what goes through my mind when I am looking at picking up new pieces as well. Having said that, I hope you've enjoyed the video. More to come as these small little nuggets of what I've gone through, what I'm going through as well. If you like what you see, click like. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Until that, my friend, I will see you next time.